Hey everyone, Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, is not really known for investing in the type of growth stocks that could multiply your money exponentially. For example, take $100,000 to $1 million. Investors looking for that kind of explosive growth stocks have been more likely to look for Cathie Wood and her innovative growth stock portfolio for growth stocks that could potentially explode in that fashion. However, there is one stock in Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway portfolio that, in my opinion, is the one that's most likely to take $100,000 to $1 million over the next 10 years. What is that growth stock? It is Snowflake, the data company. And with artificial intelligence rising the value of data worldwide, or increasing the value of data, Snowflake is poised to benefit from that trend. So let me go through here and share with you why I think Snowflake could be one growth stock that could take $100,000 and turn it into $1 million over the next decade that Warren Buffett does own in the Berkshire Hathaway portfolio. So one thing to look at with Snowflake is the phenomenal revenue growth. Over the trailing 12-month period, Snowflake's revenue at $2.44 billion is more than 3 times the rate it was at in July of 2021. And management expects this revenue to grow by billions more over the next decade. Demand for its services are increasing, and Snowflake is benefiting from that increase in effectiveness of AI that I mentioned earlier. Remember, large language models, in order to develop, implement, and train those large language models, you need a ton of data, and that's Snowflake's core competence. So it's benefiting from that right now as we speak. And so if Snowflake is to take if you're going to take $100,000 in Snowflake and take it to 1 million, that means Snowflake's market cap is going to increase as well. And right now, Snowflake is right around $50 billion at $53.88 billion in market cap. And so to go 10x, it would increase to $530 billion, or over 500 billion over the next decade. At one point, Snowflake was trading at a market cap of over 120 billion. And so given how much AI is going to increase in terms of the proportion of our economy worldwide, it's reasonable to think that Snowflake's market cap could rise to 500 billion over the next decade. Right? It's not a long shot. It's also not a highly probable outcome. It's one that could happen. It could reasonably happen. However, it's not something that I can sit here and say, oh yes, for sure it's going to happen. But it's the one stock in Warren Buffett's portfolio that I believe has the best likelihood of reaching this 10x in valuation, right? So another reason why I think this might be the case is because Snowflake is demonstrating economies in scale here. As its revenue is growing, the company is improving its operating profit margin, going from negative 90% up to negative 41%. And so as that revenue growth continues and it scales up, that profit margin will turn positive if it maintains this trend, and thereby bringing more profits on the bottom line. And more profits will lead to more investors being interested in purchasing Snowflake stock, which could provide a boost to valuation in the coming years. And that similar story plays out even more so in its cash flow from operations, which is already significantly positive. The company has turned it around from negative, let's say 10 million in cash flow from operations in a trailing 12-month period, all the way up to 679 million in cash flow from operations in a trailing 12-month period. So if this trend also continues into the future, as its revenue grows, its cash flow from operations will grow even more so, making this company even more attractive to investors and boosting its valuation. And finally, Snowflake stock right now is trading at its lowest price to sales ratio it has traded for going back about a year and a half at a forward price to sales of 14.97, used to trade at a forward price to sales of over 32. And when you're thinking about an increase in a stock's value or an increase in a stock's market capitalization, that comes from a combination of factors. One of those factors being an increase in profits or an increase in cash flow. The other one of those factors is an increase in the multiple, right? So let's say profits increase, and then what multiple of those profits are investors willing to pay? And you could see here right now they're willing to pay a 15 multiple on Snowflake sales. Previously, investors were willing to pay a 32 multiple, right? The reason this decreased is because its prospects diminished. It's not growing at the same rate it was growing at earlier in 2022. It's not making the same amount of progress in operating profitability as it was earlier in 2022. So if the company does improve its prospects, improves the profitability, improves the cash flow along with the rate of revenue growth, then it could be that investors would be willing to pay a higher multiple on those earnings and on those cash flow, on those sales throughout these next few years. So if I was to pick one of Warren Buffett's stocks that's most likely to turn $100,000 into $1 million, my opinion, it would be Snowflake stock.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.